Hey there, welcome back to my shop. My name is Carmen De La Paz, and we are going to do part 3 of the series of DIY installing drywall. Now what we're going to do is we're going to sand back the plaster, and then we're going to prime the wall, and I'm going to show you what I use, what your options are, and some easy tips and tricks to make your life easier. Simple as that. Let's get started. So when it comes to drywall and sanding back the plaster, there are two schools of thought. You can do a dry technique, which is the traditional way to do it. You actually just use sandpaper, and this is drywall sandpaper. And you've also seen the meshing kind, and I also recommend that you use one of these sanding blocks. They come with little prongs on the end, and all you have to do is feed in the sandpaper right into the end there. Just feed it into there. Line it up, snap down, and then do the other side. Same thing, open it up, push it through until the little teeth go in, and then you just go ahead and press down, and now you're loaded with your little sanding block. It fits nice in your hand, and it's great if you're going to be sanding for a really long time. And the other school of thought is just using a regular old sponge. Some people like to use the bigger masonry sponges. I like to use this little Scotch-Brite for a couple of reasons. The back side gives me a little bit of texture and also a little bit of roughness, so I can sand back some of the high areas. And this side, if my wall happens to have some texture on it, I can go ahead and create some of that texture with the plaster as I'm going. All I use is water, a bucket, and the sponge, and I sand back, and that prevents a lot of dust. If you're going to use the regular sanding technique with traditional paper, then make sure that you're using a respiratory mask, and also make sure that you're sealing any area where you don't want that fine powder to go. What people don't realize is that fine powder that you see that kind of comes off, you think it all goes to the floor, but a lot of it actually stays in the air for up to 8 hours, and those are the particles that are actually, we're breathing in and reaching our lungs. So what you think is gone on the floor is what you think you're protecting yourself from, but what you want to protect yourself from is the stuff that's still floating in the air. So if you're dry sanding, make sure that you use a respiratory mask. Now, the sandpaper technique is pretty straightforward. I like to start in the middle of where I have the most plaster, and then I like to work my way out. The only thing I don't want to do is I don't want to sand too much over the paper. So when I get to the edge, I go really light and nice and carefully. All I really want to do is even it out, and then the primer is going to take care of the rest. So all I like to do is circular motions, starting in the middle, and working my way out, and just going lightly and evenly. And so now, for the wet technique, to go ahead and sand back the plaster on our wall. Got a bucket of water, my sponge is in here. I want to get rid of the excess. I don't want too much. I still want some moisture in it. And then I'm just going to work my way around all the way out. And what that's going to help me do is just, it's going to wake up the plaster. It's going to literally make it wet again, wake it up. Which, again, I don't want to mess too much with the paper. With the dry technique of the sandpaper, you're going to wear it out. With the wet technique, you're going to wake it up, and the paper's going to turn into like little, worn out paper. So we don't want that. What we want to do is work from the center and work our way out. So nice and gently, I'm just going to rub, and I'm going to push it all the way out. To the final step for our wall, which is the primer. But before we do the primer, let's actually talk about rollers. One of the things that people don't really know is that you need to marry the texture of the wall to the thickness of your roller. So let me explain a little bit better. The smoother the wall, the thinner the roller. The more textured the wall, the thicker the roller, so that, let's say this was a rough wall, we would be using a big puffy roller, and as the paint moves around, it's able to get in and out of all the highs and lows of the texture. In this case, because I have a smooth wall, I'm using a thin roller that is dedicated to smooth walls. You're going to find rollers that are labeled smooth, semi-rough, and extra rough, or rough texture. So pick your roller according to the texture of your wall. Very important. The other thing is that most people don't realize you have to prep a roller before you actually put it on the wall. How many of you have actually painted a wall, and when you're done, you see all of these little fuzzes behind on the wall? That is because the fuzz that is actually on your roller will get into the paint and then will get onto the wall. So we're going to defuzz. How are we going to do that? We're going to go use good old Scotch Blue. Just going to put it up over here. I'm going to attach it to my wall so I've got something to hang on to. And then I'm going to use the adhesive side up, obviously, and I'm just going to roll the roller back and forth. And what I'm doing is I'm actually removing the extra fuzz that's all over this roller, and it'll be left behind on the tape as opposed to on our wall. So now we have a prepped roller. We're ready to go, and we're ready to paint. So on to the primer. So I've got my primer ready to go, and basically what the primer is going to do is it's going to seal the wall so that you don't have what's called flashing. Flashing is when you can see the dry spots of the plaster where you've gone and done the repair or actually installed the plaster. So we want to get rid of all the flashing, and this is a primer and a stain blocker. So when I paint, I like to paint in X's and W's, and then I like to just give it one last pass. This is going to ensure that we have one nice even layer of the paint. With the primer, it's not so important, but with regular paint, it is. And why am I using a small roller as opposed to a bigger roller? I find that I'm more efficient, I'm faster, and it's less work on my body than using the big rollers. And trust me, I've experimented, I've timed myself with both, and I'm still going to go with the small roller. And we're on to painting. And so there we have it. Primer is set and ready to go. Now the whole purpose to this wall is so that I could have a wall that I could do different techniques on every week, because I didn't want to paint another wall in my house or try to find where I was going to do it. So I just decided to build a wall so that we could do all sorts of techniques. I'm going to do Venetian plaster, I'm going to do suede, I'm going to do gilding, I'm going to do denim, I'm going to do chambray, I'm going to do all sorts of different techniques on this wall, as well as the tools and the molding and a whole bunch of other stuff. So please do me one favor, just hit like and also subscribe, because each and every one of you counts to me and I greatly appreciate it. Until next time, when the fun really begins and we're going to get into some deep techniques, so stick around for more. Oh, and I forgot to tell you one last thing. Look at me, I'm sweating like a pig, but this is really important. Let's say you don't want to wash the roller and you don't want to throw it away and you've got more to paint. So all you have to do is get a plastic bag, wrap up the roller in the plastic bag, wrap it up really well, I'll show you, just like this, and then you can put it in the freezer until tomorrow or the next day. I mean, I've literally had brushes, sometimes a roller, in my refrigerator for like a month or two. But you can always come back, you de-thaw it out, and you can use it all over again. You don't have to wash it, you don't have to throw it away again, and you can use it. So there you have it, and now I'm really done, because I am a sweaty mess. Thanks a lot.